welcome everybody to the On with Shahan podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Raffi Sosikian joins me today. He's a serial entrepreneur, investor, and the founder at Pinnacle Quant. Raffi, thanks so much for joining, man.
Thank you for having me, Shahan. Finally good to be on with Shahan.
Thank you, man. And for those who don't know, Raffi and I are related. This show would not be called On with Shahan without his mother, who named me Shahan. She was the one that actually named me. So thanks, Raffi, for joining. For those that don't know you, I obviously know you really well, but those that don't know you, I've always admired you, and you've been an entrepreneur for a very long time. Before it was cool, before it was in style. You took a big leap in your life and where you were. And I would love for others to hear your background, how you started your career, how you jumped into entrepreneurship, and what led you to the work that you're doing today.
Well, I like to say that all things happen just because they do, and you really have no control over what's going to happen. I guess the most honest interview I ever heard was from a guy named Kirk Kerkorian, who, from MGM, the multi-billionaire. He basically, they asked him later, well, what's your success? What do you attribute your success to? And he said, I was at the right place at the right time. I had nothing to do with it, pure luck. And so that is a very honest answer. You can read as many books as you want on the topic, but at the end of the day, you don't know what's going to work. And so, but I'll talk about myself because you asked that question. So basically for me, it started out as to, hey, I need to make some money. So I was employed initially when I was 16 years old. I decided to get a job. So right after high school, I would go right after like 3:30. At 4 o'clock, I'd check into this answering service, okay? And I used to answer phones for doctors, plastic surgeons, different businesses, like anybody who needed an answering service. And so I used to get paid $6 an hour. And then I never really got paid on time either, okay? So the owner was a friend of a friend, and so he would take me out for pizza, and he would explain to me that he's gonna be late again. And I just got used to the routine, okay? Every time I got pizza, he's gonna be late for the payments. But I just like, how much is it anyway? It's like $6 an hour. It's fun, whatever. Right. And so I go, but this isn't going to pay any bills. So I decided to really start to look into other ways that I can make money. And the easiest way for me to do that was I figured to start my own thing one day, So I had that in me where I can't work for somebody else and expect to get, any type of real money coming in, especially if you're young, you're a teenager, right? And so soon after, graduated high school, and I basically was like, I don't really have a good job. And so what am I going to do? I said, okay, let me see if I can do something here. Okay, I've got a skill set. I can build websites, okay? But I have no clients. So let me build a website that I can actually sell stuff, okay? And so I said, what can I sell? What kind of information do people want, okay? So I figured, well, I think if somebody was going to start a business, or if they wanted money, they would have to get a loan, okay? And then I go, but what's even better than a loan? A grant. If you can get granted something, that'd be fantastic. So I said, let's see if there are any programs like that where the government or other institutions are able to give you essentially a grant to accomplish your goal.
And what's the time frame here, Raffi? Like, what are we talking in terms of time frame?
I would say, like I said, I was about 18 years old.
18,
something like that. 18, 19, around 18, 19, probably not even 19, 18. And so, I was like, okay, let's come up with an idea where I can incorporate all this stuff. So I went to the library. That's where the information is. And so I basically started writing a lot of information when it came to different institutions that give you grants for various different things. If you're a minority, if you are starting anything in the science-based world, anything that you can get a grant. Okay, so I said, okay, let me get a list of that. Then I went to the SBA, different SBA programs, different other loan programs, put it all together and came up with a directory called Your A to Z Directory of Government Grants and Loans. It was 150 pages. A lot of the information in it was, by the way, copied because it's data information you can copy. So it's basically phone number, address. Back in the day, not too many email addresses, but phone number and address, physical address. no website. And so many of them didn't have websites. So, but that information, I said, before I release this, I got to make sure this is correct. So I started literally calling all the phone numbers. I mean, we're talking thousands of, so I realized my phone bill is coming up. MCI at that time had an offer where up to $1,000 worth of calls for the first month if you switch over to them. I immediately switched over to them. Literally, I maxed it out to that 1,000 because I had called every number to verify if it's correct or not. It took 8 months for me to get it finally, done. But the writing part wasn't too bad because you're essentially copying information and then organizing the data. And so like the phone numbers. So I'm not copying like how they organized it.
Right.
I'm copying the data, right? And so the data, the phone number, the address. So once I organized it myself the way that I want to organize it with my index, my everything, it had to be correct. So got it all together, designed the website, front end, back end, publish it. And I started getting orders. People were searching at the time, Yahoo, Alta Vista, search engines like that. And I started getting orders and it started doing well. So I was like, this is great. I sold it for like $59.95 each. So it was like, back in the day money, $59.95 was like $129 today money. Okay. Right. So, but basically it was like selling. I mean, this is a directory, 150 pages, people are paying for this. And so it was good and it was doing great. What happens there is I started doing well. At the time I started getting phone calls from people who said, I saw your website, can you build me a website? And so I go, okay. And it was just friends who would basically see it, people at church or somebody, at work, so from work, I should say. And they would basically like say, hey, Raffi, I saw you've started a website. Let me get in and build my own. Can you build my own? So I was like, okay, I did that for a couple of people. And so that was also a fun experience. And soon after I said, okay, well, let's go with this. I'm still in college. Now I'm in college. I'm studying. This is going on for years. And then all of a sudden, sales started to flutter. And that's because a lot of people started selling a book that was very similar to mine. And so the market was flooded. There was one guy I remember from Israel. He started selling it at 1995, his book. I was like, oh, it's over for me. Like, so, my sales had gone down to 2,500 and a month. I was doing about 10,000 a month. And so it got down all the way down to 2,500. I go, okay, it's time to get a job. I go to B of A. Okay, I applied there, got the job, and start doing business development for them. And met a wonderful guy who was really my partner. His name is Roger Rodas, who unfortunately ended up fatally dying in that fatal crash with Paul Walker from the Fast and Furious movies. And so Roger was like very influential. He was a wealth advisor and he really knew what he was talking about. I mean, he had a passion for what he was talking about and it showed. I mean, he was able to get movie stars like Paul Walker to be his clients and stuff like that. So he was very influential. So anyway, ultimately I left that job only because they merged with the Nations Bank. A lot of people don't remember the history there, but Nations Bank and Bank of America are essentially merged. Some people said Nations Bank took it over. But anyway, they merged and they basically cut the commissions for all the salespeople. And so anybody who was in business development. And that basically was a total, showstopper. A lot of people left because I mean, it was a drastic cut. It was not a simple thing. So I then remembered that I had a skill. I can develop websites. And I said, I'm going to get back into that. But what I discovered quickly is that people don't really care that much about the website. What people care about is what the website can do for them with respect to sales. How many orders can they get? Okay. So people started saying, can you build me a website? Now we're like in 98. Actually, no, not in 98, a little bit sooner than that. We're in 96, excuse me. We're in 96, not 98. And people were saying, hey, the search engines are becoming big. Yahoo at the time is rocking and rolling, not Google. So Yahoo, Alta Vista, all the web. I might say these things, people are like, huh? All the web.
Ask Jeeves. Is Ask Jeeves part of it?
Yes, very good. Ask Jeeves. And then became Ask. They removed the butler from their logo. Right. But anyway, so there was these search engines that people were like, well, can you get me sales from those search engines by making my site come up higher? And so I had done that for the book. Okay. When I had done it for the book and I thought it was like so simple, the hard part was designing the website. The easy part was ranking it higher. It was a joke back in the day until Google came onto the scene. It was a total easy cake thing, okay? I'll give you my secret sauce. I put in meta tags in the title tag. I put in a meta description tag. Back then, I put in meta keywords. Nowadays, meta keywords don't matter, but they did back then. I measured the keyword to content ratio to make sure there's enough keywords in that content. And then my final sauce, which was the weakness, the Achilles heel of Yahoo, was if you put the keyword in the URL twice, you become like unstoppable. Okay? So it was so easy, okay? So basically, I had that in my URL, which is why I got ranked #1 on Yahoo, which is where all my sales were coming from. And so once I learned this, I was like, I can apply this all day long. Like that's easy for me. The hard part is building a website. Nowadays, everybody uses WordPress and stuff like that, but back in the day, you build it by hand, okay? There was a software called PageMill back in the day, Adobe PageMill. I'm going back. Any viewer who remembers that, kudos, okay? So it was called PageMill. So I did use it a little bit, Adobe PageMill, but you had to really know what you were doing. And so you really had to know some code. So I go, okay, let me start building this. That's what the phone calls started coming in for. So I was like, can you build me a website and optimize it for me so that I come up higher? That became like it switched for me. When I was like, in my mind, I go, let's not have web design as the key element. Oh, and by the way, I do SEO, search engine optimization. But I do SEO and stop there and see if somebody just wants me to build their website too, I could do that. But let's stop with the SEO, okay? And many people already had gone to their friends and cousins and families and said, can you build me my own website? So that had already happened. So, because now we're in 96, remember, and I was like, hey, if you guys want me to SEO it, I can SEO it. And that was just like, with zero advertising, you can do a lot if you do something really well, okay? And thank God I was able to do that really well. So that is something that's an area of expertise that I was able to excel in. And so fortunately, thankfully. And so that basically one client became 5, 10, 40, 100, thousands. It ended up becoming a 17,000 client database. Wow. That really took off on its own because people were like, let's go ahead, and this guy's company is able to get it done. Okay, we just paid him a little bit of money and we're getting all this business. People would literally say this experience to me over and over again. Raffi, I was just sitting there and all of a sudden my phone started ringing and I'd forgotten, like a few weeks had gone by that I'd paid you, because it takes time for the search engines to reindex themselves. It takes some time. Because I'd totally forgotten I had paid you, okay? And I know you did the work, but I'd forgotten that you had even done it. He goes, I'm working on my car. This is a mechanic. Because I'm working on some car. He goes, the phone started ringing. I'm like, where's it coming from? What's going on? So he goes, I'm like, could you please hold? Could you please hold? I'm like, what's happening? Okay. He goes, then I realized, I asked him, how did you get this number? How did you find me? And they're like, oh, I found you on Yahoo. He's like, I totally had forgotten I had paid you. And that story happened over and over again, where people were like lighting up their phones and they were doing really well because of it. If that happens to you, what do you do, Shahan? Do you tell John? Do you tell Nishan about it?
Everybody I know. Yeah, right.
Yeah, you tell everyone you know, right? So you're like, of course, you're like, this worked. I paid the guy, I was charging like peanuts. So I paid the guy like nothing and he was able to do like all this. The reason I charged peanuts is because I was doing very little work. And so I was like, I just knew what to do. And so that little work that I did worked really well. It just took me like not a lot of time to do it, okay? Now, Google came into the scene in 98. That little work is out the door. Now it's a lot of work, okay? So the other search engines had really, and you saw from the results, so Google came into the scene and they changed everything. So Google was started by a couple of guys, if somebody wants to know history, Alan Page and Sergey Brin. Okay, these guys met at Stanford, a couple of mathematicians. I believe one of their, Page's dad is also a mathematician, so it's sort of a generation a little bit. So they came up with something that Alan named after himself, Pagerank. So this is a system to rank websites using essentially backlinks. So links pointing to a website. And that was a lot harder to do. See, that you have to get actual links from other websites to point to your website. And so however, once I figured out what PageRank was, which took me about 6 months to really study all the websites that I was studying and then see the patterns as to why. Initially, I thought it was as simple as Yahoo's. So I was just basically, I had a very methodical system of analyzing all the websites, all the keywords that I'm looking at. on a variety of different industries and to see what the common denominator is. And I couldn't find that in Google, I was like, I don't understand what they've done. With Yahoo, joke. With Google, when I say joke, no disrespect to anybody in Yahoo. I'm just saying back in the day, engineers, I love Yahoo. Back in the day, engineers, they were doing it in a different way than today's engineers would do it. Okay, so it was just starting out. I don't blame them. You know, the industry was just new. Right. And so basically, you know, Google comes into the scene and I figure there's something else that I'm missing here. And PageRank, there's not a lot of information on it because it's not a publicly traded company. It's just Alan Page and Sergey Brin working out of a garage, okay? And so, you know, there's no information. I started looking to see if I could find something else. And it was like really, really frustrating to try to find that answer as to what these guys did that's so different. And then I go, how would I do this? Like if I sat there, what would I do? I go, my only options are on-site and off-site. The off-site, what would they do off-site? Okay, like what would they do off-site? Then I started visiting websites and saw links going to particular websites, okay? Just regular random websites. I'd type in a keyword and something would come up. And if I saw outgo links from this website A to website B, I followed it and then tried to determine where their keyword is. So I found their keyword, searched the keyword, and the site came up number 1. I go, aha, wow. It's links. It's links. So then I go, okay, so what do I do to get links? I'm not going to explain how in detail. I don't give that secret sauce. How do I get my links? But I could say that it's, you know, I control all the websites so that I own, and I own a lot of websites. And so those links will start basically pointing to the client's website. I started doing that. And back in the day, Alan Page had not done it in the way that they do it today. So Alan Page had done it. If a link is there, that's 1 vote. So if you get 30 links, that's 30 votes. If you get 300 links, that's 300 votes. And that's not the greatest system. Okay, that's pretty easy to manipulate. Once again, did the same thing. Now Google is doing very well. Now, if you thought Yahoo was good, I mean, Google would light up the place. It was incredible. Okay, like Google will change your life as far as you can go from 0 sales to like 1,000 sales relatively quickly with a search engine like that. So that's basically the thing. I started Register Everywhere. So now I'm in Register Everywhere mode, and I'm doing, you know, sales. That's the 17,000 plus number is Register Everywhere. I should have mentioned the company, but registereverywhere.com. So basically, what that just started to mature and started to plateau. At some point, every business is going to run into that. You're going to run into a place where you just plateau, where new business is going to be harder to come by. Why? Because if you've done really well, there is no moat around businesses like this. Okay, in most tech businesses, there is no moat. Okay, there's nothing protecting you from somebody else doing something that's very similar to what you do, not exactly what you do. Okay, so when I first started registereverywhere.com, there were a handful of SEO companies. Today, there are tens of thousands of SEO companies, and nearly every web developer, which there are millions of, will tell you they also do SEO. Okay, so the competition is going to get very thick, and when that happens, you will plateau, and sales will flutter, and it will come down. So when that happened with registereverywhere.com, it's still doing okay, thank God. But when, you know, sales started to come down, you always think, well, what more can I do? Okay, so I said, okay, what I've always had a passion for is trading since the year 2000. Little known fact, when I got married in 2005, that wedding was paid for by me going long on Baidu on IPO day.
Wow.
And you were there at the wedding. And so I went long on Baidu on Friday on their IPO and sold it off on Monday. And that paid for my wedding.
That's incredible.
So that is like, I've always had that passion for trading. I've always enjoyed trading. And so you always go back to what you like, you know, in business, you always go back to what you like. And usually there's this one movie that from 1986. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's called The Color of Money. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so it's a Martin Scorsese film with Paul Newman and Tom Cruise. And so there's a line in that movie that resonated with me in '86. Okay, and I still think about it. Paul Newman sitting there expressing how it's a movie about playing pool, okay, and making money while playing pool. Paul Newman says, you know, if you've got an area of expertise, you're the best at something, anything, rich can be arranged. That resonated with me. Okay. Now, to me, I don't define rich as money only. I know a lot of people that have a lot of money that I would not define as rich. Okay. Rich is like the Kwan. Okay. The rich is you've got the satisfaction in your work. Okay. You really feel like you are satisfied with the work that you've done. You do have the money. Okay. You certainly have that, but you have that comfortable sleep at night, knowing you've done a job very well, you know, and somebody's very happy with you. So that's really rich. To me, that was the sort of like, hey, no matter what you do, like the Bible says, right? No matter what your hands find to do, do with all your might, right? And so that's very true. If you do that, there's a lot of reward in that. Okay, if you're the best at something, anything, you're going to do very well ultimately in every sense of the word. You're going to be rich in the proper sense of the word, not just money. Okay, I felt like, okay, I wanna going back to the story. I want to trade. Okay, I like trading. I like doing it. I like programming. I like building. The old saying, always ABC, always be selling. ABS, excuse me, always be selling. Okay, I'm always be building. ABB. Okay, I love to build things. Okay, so I love building new things. Always. That I love the challenge and I love the excitement that goes with it. I love solving the problems, and so. You know, I said, let me start trading. And then this is when sales started to flutter a little bit. But I go, I don't know if I want to trade manually. It takes too much time, way too much time. You're glued to your screen. Hadn't met a trader until that day. And I used to be on various different forums that was not angry. Most traders are very, very angry. If you know any traders that are like full-time traders, you'll see how angry they are. Like everything is just terrible. Or really, really good. Okay, there's no middle ground.
A lot
okay?
of highs
like,
and lows, yeah.
A lot of highs and lows, man. It's like a lot. And so I didn't want that. I go, if I'm going to become like a more committed trader, I don't want to be angry. Like that doesn't resonate with me at all. It doesn't sit in me. So I go, what's the real problem with trading? Again, we have a problem. I want to solve it. What's the problem with trading? The real problem is, besides the whole risk capital thing where you can lose money, that's a problem. But the other problem is that there's emotional, I guess, problems that have to be solved. And what is an emotional problem? I'll describe it, okay, in case you have guys who are trading, you know, Bitcoin or whatever watching. So here's the problem that I think is going to resonate with them, okay? So let's say you're sitting there and you go, should I go long right now? Dude, it's going higher. Should I go long? Should I add to my position? Should I add to my position? I'm going to add to my position. I'm definitely going to do it. But you don't really do it. You don't actually make the move because you're like, what if I'm wrong? What if it starts backtracking? I mean, what if I lose the money? I'm already up. Why do I want to give it back? And you start questioning yourself. And by the time you question yourself, it's gone up another, I don't know how many 100 points. Okay. Right. I'm being hypothetical, obviously. But it's gone up and you've missed opportunity. Okay. Another one is, and now you chase, by the way. Here's the second part of that story is you can chase. You start chasing, you go, I was late, few hundred, but I'm going to get in now. And as soon as you get in, what happens? Reverses right back down. Right. And so you're like, dude, I can't make this decision. Like I keep getting that wrong. I thought it was going to go up and I was right. By the time I made the move to actually go long, it started reversing and now I've lost money or I'm down if I haven't exited yet. So everything I just said was hypothetical, obviously, right? But that's the whole point of trading. So there's an emotional problem there. The other problem is, when do you get out? Okay, where's your stop? That's a problem that a lot of people actually. Do you have a stop when you trade, Shahan? For anything?
Yeah, I used to trade. I don't trade as much now. I have crypto is too crazy to trade for me. But yeah, when I'm trading stocks, yeah.
You have a stop. Okay, yeah. You're doing the right thing in my view, in my opinion. A lot of people, unfortunately, in my view, don't have a stop, and the reason for it is because they don't know where to put a stop. At what point do they say, I'm wrong, let me get out? They don't know. And so they start out saying, I'm just going to do a quick trade, and they become long-term investors because they don't know where to get out, because that quick trade went against them. They didn't have a stop, and now they're deep in the hole, and they don't want to get out. As soon as they exit, they've lost the money. And so they don't want to get out, and it just becomes a bigger problem, okay? It sort of gets out of control, and now you're down like 80%, 90%, maybe even you've lost all of your money. And so that stop price is another problem. It's all emotional. Okay. It's all, you don't want to lose the money. You get scared. I said, there is a way to solve that. It's to automate trading.
Right.
If I automate my trading, I'm going to not have those. It's not like I'm, above those problems. I have those emotions. I don't care if you've been trading 100 years, you're going to have some sort of emotional tie-in to your trade. And that's going to potentially get you to make a mistake. Okay. So I said, I'm going to, and I had made, by the way, what I described, the mistakes, I was talking about myself. I've done those very things in trade.
Yeah, me too.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I've done those very mistakes, lost those kinds of funds myself because either I chased or my stop wasn't there or was too conservative or too liberal. You have to know what you're doing. And so I said, I don't want to make these decisions on the fly. It's got to be made for me in advance. And so I developed for myself an automated trading system. Essentially, in the beginning, I started doing a lot of research as to, okay, the infrastructure of the system works, but what do I trade? Because there's a whole slew of things you can trade, right? You just talked about crypto, but there's also obviously equities, stocks. You could trade futures, which is what I trade. You could trade Forex. There's a lot of different instruments and a lot of different areas that you could be in, okay? Not to mention, of course, you could also be trading bonds, notes. So there's lots of different things. You could trade other commodities, gold, whatever, okay? It's a lot of options. So I said, let me narrow it down for me. Went through a bunch of months and months of research as to where I can find patterns that are more established in the marketplace. And what I discovered was, for me, that the E-mini S&P 500 futures was a home run for me. And I saw the patterns. It was obvious to me that it was a lot of algo trading going on in there, robotic trading going on, where it's like at a particular price they're buying, at a particular price they're selling, at a particular price they're exiting. It became very obvious. You start to see the patterns. And I just wrote code around it, codified it, and tested it. Was very happy with the results. And so that's basically how I came up with the automated trading system, and ultimately which ultimately is now Pinnacle Quant. And so in between, I'm sure I can cover more, but I'll let you ask the question. I'll answer.
Yeah, I mean, I want everybody to hear what you said, because the way you speak about your entrepreneurial journey is much different than others, and is why I asked you to come on, is because from 18 or 19 years old, you just had a different mindset. I mean, you say those things in passing, but it's actually kind of crazy for an 18 or a 19-year-old to think of those things at that time, to aggregate all that information, call all the people to make sure the information is right, post it on those different forums on an extremely new technology. And it's actually inspiring to hear that, and the way you pivoted from the websites to actually the extra level of expertise is with the SEO, and then creating Register Everywhere, and then just your way of processing and looking at information to push that into Pinnacle Quant and the automated trading. So I wanted you to just, because other people, I feel like right now there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are getting into the space thinking it's this glamorous thing, but it is fun to do. I've jumped into it for the last few years, but it's certainly very difficult and very challenging. And you have to be in this because, like you said, you have to have satisfaction in the work that you're doing. So from the work that you've done, you've now, I think, a couple of decades that you've been an entrepreneur. Do you have some words of wisdom for new entrepreneurs? Or another example I'm seeing come up a lot more is those that are professionals that are now maybe trying to do a side business or jumping into entrepreneurship, kind of slow rolling their way into there. But any words of wisdom you have from your vast experience, Raffi?
Well, I would say, I don't know how vast my experience is, but I would definitely I owe a lot of gratitude to God. I would say, if you follow the 2 commandments from Jesus, I would honestly say that if you just put God first, let's talk about that, putting God first. And loving God, it reads, I should say, with all your mind, soul, and being, essentially. If you do that, you don't make a subpar product. Your product will be excellent as an entrepreneur because you're doing it unto God. you're building this product or service onto God. You are not going to produce junk, okay? You're not going to produce a subpar product. It may not be the best in the world, but it will be the best that you can produce. And that's a fantastic start, okay? The best that you can produce. That pursuit of perfection should be inside of every entrepreneur. Never make a subpar product, or just don't do it at all. Do something else. But if you're going to do something, do it right, okay? Do it from the get-go so that you're giving it your entire effort, entire energy has been spent on making it a perfect product as you can make it, as perfect product as you can make it. And ultimately, you'll keep honing that skill, and you will get better and better and better. And ultimately, you might end up with the best product out there. And as Paul Newman said in that movie, that's absolutely true. If you've got an area of excellence, anything, rich can be arranged. Okay, don't worry about that. You just worry about the product. So do it unto God. The next thing that Jesus said is love your neighbor as you love yourself. Love your market as you love yourself. Okay, what's your neighbor? Anybody who's not you that you have a relationship with. Okay, that's your neighbor. That's your market. You have a relationship with your market. You have clients, don't you? You can sell to them, aren't you? So make it so that your market, you love them as much as you love yourself. Don't mess up that order. Don't mess up that order. Love them as you love yourself. Equal. So that means you can use your own product and you would be totally satisfied with your own product. Never sell something you don't believe in. Never sell something you wouldn't use yourself.
Right.
What's the point? Okay, you got to sell it so that they buy it because you would buy it, and your passion will show. Your passion will show. You know what your product can do. You've checked it out. You've compared it to somebody else's product, not in a way of that envy way, not in a jealous way, but you've looked at it as, hey, they've got a great product, good for them. I'm going to make a great product too, and I'm going to do my best. Now, the other part is those two are foundational, and you have to have that, in my opinion. The other part of it is when you make something, don't just give it your all. Like, I want you to dream. Like, you should be having, literally, you should have a dream at nights about what you were thinking about, okay? And those thoughts, really amazing things happen when you just think about it all the time, okay? Like, you start literally having dreams about, I've had dreams about code. I've had, like, when I get stuck someplace very difficult, I literally have, because I've been thinking about it so much, okay? So that's a very important thing I would say to any entrepreneur. The other part of it is don't try to be a billionaire, okay? Or change the world, okay? I hear that a lot, okay? Every entrepreneur that I see either on TV or read about, like, they have this mindset of, we're gonna change the world, okay? Big place, all right? You don't wanna change the world, okay? You could change your world, but you don't wanna change the world, because that's a big, big undertaking, okay? That, like, requires countries and, the kind of vast resources. It's not for entrepreneurs to do. I mean, you've had some entrepreneurs that have done stuff like that. 1 out of every 100 million, okay. But, what are the odds of you doing that? You got to be honest with yourself, because a lot of these decisions are statistical. You have to be honest with yourself. And you have to say, well, I don't want to change the world. I want to change my world. I want to be better at what I do. I want to invest in myself and learn and talk to people and go to conferences. And I don't know if conferences will ever come back, but if, because of COVID, but it's like, if you have any opportunity to talk about your trade, talk about it with people and get better at it. It's okay to make $2,000 a month. It's perfectly fine. That's $2,000 more than you had previous month. That's great. Okay. Don't complain about money that comes in. I know of attorneys who are Uber drivers. No joke. They're attorneys, licensed attorneys. You see them in court, then you see them driving your car. Their car, driving you. I mean, that's same guy doing dog walking. Same attorney. He's a dog walker, Uber driver, and an attorney. I mean, he's basically saying, I don't care. There is no ego in this. It's, am I a very good dog walker? Do these dogs love me? No pride, no ego when it comes to that, other than the pride of doing good work, okay? Right. These dogs love me. When you walk that neighborhood and other people see you walking those dogs, they go, hey, this guy's good. And your business just grows, okay? You get more dogs, okay? Uber, same thing. I mean, you go out of law school, you have a lot of debt, okay? A lot of debt. And you want a nice place, you want a nice car? Well, guess what? You're gonna have to work, okay? So entrepreneurship is working Not being lazy, that's like a sin. Don't do it. There is no such thing as being lazy. 6 days a week, is what you should be working. And get that, and don't have any fear of hey, I want to make $10 million by next year. Okay, but that might be a nice little thing, but you're starting it in the wrong position. Do it unto God. Love the market as you love yourself. Then you've got the order right, because now you're going to build a product that's for the market just as much as it is for yourself. Okay, so you don't want to build a product where I'm just going to make money. That's my number one goal. It's not. It should never be that. You are, in my view, not being useful to yourself or society if you have that view in mind. You have to be useful. When you're useful, money or rich can be arranged. That's my opinion.
Let's talk about the dirty word failure. So even
Yeah.
if we do those things, right? Like there's still times where we could meet all those rules, all the things we could do for success, even try to push it in the right direction, but still, not all of them are going to be wins. So from your perspectives, talk to me about any failures you've had in your entrepreneurial journey and things you've learned from those experiences.
Yes. So SoSpuzz was a failure for me. SoSpuzz was a company that I started, which is essentially a search engine for, I had called it the conscientious shoppers. So it was a search engine where you do a search, and for every purchase that you make, the advertiser would have to pay. And then a portion of those proceeds would go to your picked charity or a cause, church, whatever. I got a patent on that search results, and the way that I did it was you can essentially search for something. If you put a check mark next to it, that advertiser would essentially be able to call you back. I got a patent on that, okay, in the way that search works. But anyway, so that was a huge failure for me. I put in of my own money $1.3 million into SoSpuzz, and I had the order wrong, to be honest. God always first, but as far as I started working for it as, hey, I'm going to change the world. And that's why the advice that I gave is don't change the world. So I'm going to change the world of how search engines work. Okay. It shouldn't be the way that it is currently. It should be where you search for something, and then you can put one check mark and it will select everybody that you're going to try to contact. And if you've done the search process done right, if it's in the right pool of keywords in the right databases, you can essentially be able to give the right result where the person is able to comfortably sit back and wait for phone calls to come in. Right. Because the way I've done it is the advertiser has to select if they're accepting new clients or not. Okay, so once they select that they're accepting new clients, they would essentially say, these are the keywords that I'm willing to entertain clients on. So if a client searches for that, they come up, client puts a check mark, they're going to be notified that they're supposed to call the client. Okay, so they call the client. I thought it should be like that. I'm going to change the world. Okay, that's my myopic view. Okay, there is no reason for me to have that other than to say, I'm going to build this very difficult thing in a very complicated part of the world, the Google world, okay, and see, I'm going to be different. And so that was a big mistake. What I learned from that was having just that order wrong. When you think about yourself, I'm going to change the world, that I is a real big problem. Don't do that, okay? Focus on the market. If you do that, you won't invest in things that are not necessary, okay? Focus on the market. That's one. Number two, the pains that you go through it. I'll explain what you can go. The hardest thing I've ever done in my life, as far as the business goes, the hardest thing I've ever done as far as business or career goes was having to let my staff go. That was, the word gut wrenching? Yeah. I literally had pain in my stomach. No joke. I was holding on to my stomach because I had pain in my stomach, actual pain. The day I had to fire them was a Friday, and I couldn't sleep at all. Got up, was in bed lying down, couldn't sleep, not a wink. Got up, went to the office, sat there in miserable pain and physical pain. And I know what I'm supposed to do next. I need to fire my entire staff today, one at a time. These are people whose weddings I've gone to. I know how their relationships are. I know things about them on a personal level. Okay, because it's a small office. It was 1,000 square feet with, engineers and quality control people all packed in there. Okay, front end guys, back end guys. It was just, all of us, it's like a family. I spend more time with them, and every entrepreneur will ultimately, if they're just starting out, they should know that they're going to spend more time with their staff and their coworkers than they are with their families, their significant others. It's just a matter of fact. You'll see the significant other 2-3 hours. You'll see them for 8 or 10 hours in a given day. So I spend a lot of time with them, and that was the hardest thing. So one by one, I had to call them in and let them go, holding back the tears, trying my best not to get emotional. Couldn't do it for the last guy, and the last guy just broke down. Okay, I couldn't do it anymore. The guy's comforting me. That's the kind of relationship we had. He's getting fired. Okay, he was comforting me. Okay. So that's the kind of relationship we had. But he was just like, it's okay, I'll find another job. And I'm like, I can't hold back. Okay, because I feel terrible that I failed. I feel terrible that I failed them. They depended on me. And that is a terrible, terrible feeling. And it doesn't go away quickly, Shahan. It takes a lot of time to get over that. There is no other solution. It's not like you can, it's like a terrible breakup. Okay. You know what I mean? You don't want to go through it. Okay. But if you're going to go through it, you're going to have to go through it. And that's what it is. But it takes time to get over it. So if you don't want to make those mistakes, be very careful in how you plan things. Now, I started SosPlus in the worst possible time in my lifetime to start it, 2008. Okay, 2008, the market is crashing. In early 2008, I've been working on this since 2006. I launched it in early 2008. By March of 2008, this country was like, the economy was like done, okay? Every day you woke up, it's down, CNBC, down 400 points, it was like every single day, like, I can't catch a break. And so it's what it was, okay? The market was going down. And ultimately I was like, I'm already in it, might as swim. And I just kept going, might as well just swim. I'm already wet, keep going. But unfortunately, that's not a good solution. There was one quote that I remember saying to myself over and over again that it was really a misquote. It's from Winston Churchill, okay? He says, never give in, never give in. That speech that he gave was like the shortest speech in history maybe. But you know what else he said? He said, never give in except to good sense in that very speech. That quote usually doesn't make it to the memes and it doesn't make it to the gifts, but the truth is it says never give in except to good sense, okay? So I basically said, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to give up. Keep going is spending another like $40,000 a month on payroll. That's what keep going means. Okay. So I'm going to keep going and I'm not going to give up. That was my thing. Well, it's a mathematical, empirical number. It's a data set as to when you should quit. There is a time to quit. Okay. Most entrepreneurs have a hard time letting go because it's their baby, their idea. How could they let it go? Same with me. How could I let it go? It's my idea. Well, there's a number. Here's what I learned. Here's the number, okay? Cost of your expenses plus your opportunity cost. If that exceeded any type of risk capital budget that you had when you first started this business, if that's exceeded it, you're out. It's that simple. The opportunity cost part is a little bit harder to calculate, but everybody's got their own way of doing it. So applicable to themselves. So once you come up with that number and you say that exceeded the initial budget that I had of my risk capital, you're out. It's that simple. Now, it's hard to let people go. That's going to be the hardest part. You don't want to do it. I gave my guys like health insurance for another 2 months after I stopped it because I was like, gave them the best glowing recommendations. I told them to give my cell phone number in their resumes and their applications to whoever is potentially hiring them. Everybody, thank God, landed on their feet and in much better positions than they had with me. So everything from Imagineering to Google to lots of different, my employees went to different places, all wonderful companies, okay? One guy had some difficulty. He had some more jobs, but everybody else, he was a quality assurance guy, not an engineer. All the engineers ended up in wonderful places. I would say, yeah, the failure is going to be there. Okay, look, even in the hedge fund world, where everybody calls the hedge fund world smart money, right? That's smart money. In the hedge fund world, I read in what was that application? I think it was FT AlphaVote. Yeah, I think it was. So basically, the statistic was a third of hedge funds fail within 5 years of operation. 1/3. And that's a huge number, okay, for hedge funds, for smart money to be failing like that. So, if it's going to happen to them, they have, if you look at their education, you look at their background, you're going to see that they're amazing, right? And they're failing. So it's going to happen. Most restaurants that open close within 2 years.
Right.
So
if you look at
it's going to
startups,
happen.
I mean, over 90% of startups fail. It's
That's what it is. It's okay to fail, by the way. It hurts. It's okay to fail because there is a wonderful lesson. Had I not failed at Sauce I don't think I would have, to be honest, I wouldn't think I would have been, not that I was lying before. I hate that to be honest statement. But it just comes out.
Yeah.
But it's basically, the truth is, like, I don't think I would have done Pinnacle Quant had Sauce not failed. I don't think so. Okay.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I would have. So, not that I don't love coding and trading. I love it. But would I start a business in it? I'd love it for myself. But would I start a business in it? I don't think so. Okay. If I really think about it, I would say if Sauce was still, doing great, I don't think I would have. Okay. But you know how much I'm enjoying this Pinnacle Quant versus I was at Sauce. I had gained 48 pounds doing Sauce. Okay, that was incredibly difficult. Okay, that was very hard as far as work goes. Okay, I mean, my staff worked about 8, I saw them about 8 hours. I worked about 16, 17 hours. Okay, didn't get a chance to really hang out with my own wife most days. So it was like, other than weekends, usually one day out of the weekend. And it was just really very difficult to devote that kind of time and energy into it. Now with Pinnacle Quant, like, I am at ease. I'm at peace. Okay, I can do what I love, and I have clients that like what I'm doing. They love what I'm doing, and so it totally made sense. And even how Pinnacle Quant started really wasn't. Even if I were to go back, I'll give you a little story before we stop here on Pinnacle Quant. So I had no idea I'm going to start Pinnacle Quant. I was just looking like, I want to trade for myself. Like, maybe I should become a full-time trader, and that's it, just for myself. Okay. I go to a conference. Who's going to speak at that conference? The reason I went there was Anthony Scaramucci. He had just been, as he calls it, catapulted out of the White House. Okay. He says unceremoniously catapulted out of the White House.
Right.
So
how long did he last? 10 days, 2 weeks? It was something like that, right?
He says 11 days. If you ask him, he's really into it. If you say 10, he goes, no, 11. Okay. So, but anyway, so he was going to speak there, and I was like, it was a conference about alternative investments. Okay. I was like, let me go and see what these guys are all about. And I was actually on Amazon a day before that. I got that notice that there was going to be that conference. I was looking for books on hedge funds just to see if that's something I should want to start. Okay. And I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just like, this is a whole new world. I know how to trade, but I don't know anything about the industry. And so, I've started Googling Amazoning, is that a word? Different things like, books on hedge funds, how to start a hedge fund, things like that. I get this notice, and it was in one of the forums. I go, hey, let me go check it out. I immediately bought a ticket, went to Vegas, went to the conference. Mooch, as he calls himself, is speaking. He finishes, before he's going to speak, there was a panel that came on, and the guy spoke, and I just go, dude, this guy is just awesome. Like, in my head, I was like, this guy is so awesome. He's so right on about investments, in my view. That's how I view investments, okay? So after he stopped speaking, gets off the stage, I saw him outside. He was talking to a reporter. I waited my turn. I talked to him. I go, hey, man, I just wanted to introduce myself. What you said up there really resonated with me. I go, that was really good. And he looks at my name badge. He goes, Sosikian. I go, yeah. Armenian? I go, yeah, Armenian. How did you know? He goes, I went to UCLA. My roommate was Armenian. My girlfriend was Armenian. I go, oh, okay, cool. And I go, yeah, okay. So anyway, I go, let's talk about your strategies. What do you do? I go, well, I own a company called Register Everywhere. He goes, oh, that seems interesting. He goes, and do you trade? I go, yeah, for myself. He goes, how do you trade? I go, I trade automatically. He goes, interesting. What do you trade? I go, the SPOOs. He goes, what's SPOOs? I thought he would know. He didn't know. It's the E-mini S&P 500. Okay, so I go, the E-mini SPOOs. He goes, E-mini S&P 500. Okay. He goes, so you trade automatically. How does that go? I go, it's doing okay. He goes, how are you doing? So I told him how I'm doing. He goes, give me your number. I go, okay. I gave him my card and I go home. I saw Mooch. I talked to Mooch for like, everybody did for like, we talked to him for like 2 hours and he told us all these different stories. Very interesting. But anyway, I get back home. I get a call from this guy, the guy who got my number. And he goes, I want to talk to you. He goes, I think we should work together. And he goes, send me your results, this, that. Of course, as you know, past results are not indicative of any, past performance are not indicative of any future results, but he wanted to see my results. So I give it to him. He goes, I'll call you back. He gets his CIO, the chief investment officer of his firm, and him, and now they're talking to me. They start quizzing me, asking me questions. And the CIO this whole time thinks I'm licensed, okay? Because I know a lot about this, okay? And I'm really using like words in the industry that, I picked up from forums. Like I'm on StockTwits and various different trading forums, okay? I'm not gonna name all of them now, but I'm on a lot of them. And so I've learned these trader lingos, I know them all inside out because every trader uses it. And so I'm using it, so he's thinking I'm licensed because I'm like right there with him as far as the conversation goes. And he thinks I'm licensed, so he goes, okay. He goes, I go, I'm not licensed, bro. He goes, what are you talking about? I go, I'm not licensed. Why did you think I'm licensed? He goes, how did you know all this? I go, I'm a trader, so I would know this thing. He goes, no, we can't work with you because you need to be licensed. So I'm like, licensed? He goes, yeah. I go, okay. I go, I don't even know where to go. He goes, well, that's a commodity. He goes, that's not an equity, what you're trading. It's a derivative, so it's a commodity. So you have to go to the NFA and then get licensed and take a test, and you have to register with them and all this stuff. I go, great. So that's what I did. I literally went, took the test, passed the test, thank God, got registered with the NFA, and started Pinnacle Quant. That's literally the amount of research I put into Pinnacle Quant. And, that's basically it totally, again, I didn't do it. I happened to be at the right conference, met the right guy, only because it just so happened. And I got a phone call from that guy. What are the odds that a panelist calls you? And, and now I'm here. So things just happen sometimes if you just put yourself and throw yourself in a position for something to happen. And they just do. If I can't control, nobody can. Adam Smith called it the invisible hand. I call it God. You don't know what's going to happen. You just try.
Right. And I think you followed, it was like your first love 20 years ago. It helped you pay for your wedding. I mean, and then you jumped into this business, right?
Yeah.
And it's something you love. I think that the thing that's really clear is there's a bit of luck, but there's a bit of action. The action and the work that you're going to do is going to set you up for those circumstances. So you went to that conference, you traveled, then you took the extra step of, hey, I'm going to go meet that person, because there's something they said that resonates with me. And that's probably because you both have gone through the trenches and you see these different things, these different patterns within the industry. So it's a great common ground conversation you can have with that person. And I think because you knew the industry and what was going on so well, you were able to set yourself up for a good conversation after. So I think there was a lot of work that you put in, in order to do that. But it also followed your passion and the frequency that you were going through, right? Like with SOSPAs, maybe like you were saying, you weren't all there with your whole passion, and maybe you were, but it was different in terms of maybe the people you'll go after or you'll seek after in something that you're a little bit more passionate about. It certainly happened with me of where I've moved careers a few times. And although I was doing very similar work, quote unquote, when my heart now is behind what I'm doing now, it's taking me to a lot more places and setting me up for luck or those, God or Adam Smith, the invisible hand, more opportunities like that. If you're surrounding yourself and you're going after people who have similar goals or similar interests to yourself. So on that piece, like in Pinnacle Quant, can other people get involved, Raffi? Like what's going on with the company now? So it's an automated trading platform. Is it like more wealthy people that are getting involved? Is it individual people? Like who can get involved in the work that you're doing?
Well, that's a good question. So, and by the way, everything you just said earlier is I 100% agree with. You do have to take action. Nothing happens with you just sitting there, right? So,
right.
Absolutely. So as far as the Pinnacle Quant, so I started Pinnacle Quant, again, not knowing at all what I'm doing. and went to the SALT conference, and met again Matthias Knapp from Opel STV. And I told him about, my what I'm doing. He goes, we got to get you on. We got to get you an interview. And that interview got me a bunch of different phone calls from people that shocked me. Okay, like I was, wow, this guy's on the phone with me. And but I quickly learned that you cannot jump into this industry. This industry is a very very tough industry. If you're going to manage funds for anybody, okay, you are going to have a heck of a time if you don't show up with at least $250 million. A heck of a time, in my opinion. 250 million at least. You better have a board of directors, and on that board better be somebody who's like also on the board of Citibank, Goldman Sachs, something like that. Okay, some powerful company is what I'm trying to say. Because your performance is not nothing to these people. It's not on the high important list, okay? Because they have portfolio managers that are so well hedged that if you were to lose the entire investment that they give you, they're still going to be okay because they have so many different hedges in place. Everything is hedged, okay? So they're very, very careful. I mean, they still can lose money, obviously, but they're already very careful. So they are not too concerned with your performance, which I thought would be the most important thing. It isn't, okay? The process supersedes performance to these people. How you get to where you get to, what decisions you make, what signals you have. The process is the most important. So anybody who wants to start any type of a fund where they're managing money, let me tell you, I don't want to discourage you, but just understand that if you're coming into this business with very low funds and all you've got is great performance, it's going to be a very tough uphill battle for you. And I don't want to give good people bad news, but this is what it is. Okay, that's what I went through. I learned. Okay, I didn't know what I was doing. Never got that book on hedge funds, by the way. Never got it. So I learned, however, on the go, and I had actually excellent conversations. This industry, though, I'll say this, is helpful. They're very helpful. Everybody from the regulators to the people in the industry, they are very helpful because they have a lot of knowledge to share. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't ask them their knowledge. And so when you ask them and you inquire about what they know, oh man.
That's a very important lesson. That's actually a super important lesson. Like you have to ask, and you'd be surprised. Same with me, like even podcast guests, asking people for anything. If you don't ask, you're not going to get it, but you'd be surprised how many people will say yes if you do ask.
Yeah, because nobody asks them, Shahan. That right. They don't get asked. Okay, everybody thinks like they're these super conservative and they will never ever answer a question. Everything's a secret sauce. No, they're ready to help you if you ask them. They're not going to tell you everything that they know, but they will tell you a lot of what they know. And that's pretty much how I learned. I had 38 to be exact such opportunities in this industry of some very, very inside type of quote unquote inside people that are industry, people. And I had a wonderful education, much better than any book can provide me on hedge funds, on everything that I'm doing wrong, and everything I was doing, almost everything was wrong, like everything, almost. Just the order of things is different. You cannot approach, for example, to anybody who wants to start their own cryptocurrency fund or whatever they want to start. You cannot approach a capital allocator and say, hey, I started my business 2.5 months ago. I'm in this, and I'm going to do this and this for you. And can I have a meeting? And they're like, get the heck out of here, man. You're not going to get anything, okay? Yeah. You're nobody. You're not going to get anything, okay? What you're going to get is a hang up in your face or a laughter. Or maybe they put you on speaker and go, could you say that again? Say that again. And then you can hear a bunch of laughing in the background. Like, that's what's going to happen to you because you're not going to get that meeting. What you need to do is really understand who your market is. Capital allocators like pensions and teachers associations, whatever they are terrified of losing money. Not scared, terrified. So not only they're terrified of losing money, they're terrified of getting lawsuits against them. If they are not very careful with the funds that they're managing, they will be sued left and right. Okay, and and the lawsuit will be warranted. They have to be really, really careful. Okay, with their money. The reason being is people are entrusting them with money, and they have a fiduciary duty to make sure that money is taken care of. So they have a bunch of check boxes that they have to check. One of them is, how long have you been doing this? Okay, several years. Your performance track record has to be several years long, at least. You have to know people that they know so they can verify who you are. Okay, you can't be some guy who just walked in here and from a different country and now you're ready to go. You're gonna have to, they have to track you. Who are you? Okay, not that they're, you know, they're not biased against any country. They just don't know who you are. Okay, and then you have to have a board of directors, which I don't. You have to have a board of directors. Okay, one company, one firm, hedge fund, hired another CTA to send me a list of questionnaires so they can basically vet me out for them. They identified who they are. They said, before you even speak to this person, I'm here to vet you. Okay? And there's a list of questions that you have to answer in a written format. Okay? So they can even talk to you.
Jeez.
Understand? Like, this is how it is. It's not that easy. Okay? This
A
is
lot of
very difficult.
gatekeepers. Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah. And they hired a gatekeeper to make sure that it's like they're not talking to somebody who's going to waste their time. Okay? So it is a very, very difficult business to break into. But anyway, I tried to get those and I learned the hard way. One guy who spent a lot of time with me, he's been in business for 27 years. He said, give yourself 2 to 3 years to get $1 in. I said, I'm sorry, say that again. He goes, 2 to 3 years to get $1 in. I go, you're joking, obviously. I go, I'm not going to wait 2 to 3 years to get $1 of investment. He goes, no, I'm not joking at all. He goes, that's how long it takes. I go, that's impossible. I go, 2 to 3 years? He goes, yeah, that's what it is. He goes, do you know what you have to do in those 2 or 3 years? I go, no. He goes, you'll probably make several visits to their location. I got, for example, calls from Luxembourg, Paris, London. So I'd have to go to Luxembourg, Paris, London, make a bunch of visits on my dime, obviously, make a bunch of different visits to these funds and firms and wealthy family offices, and say, here's my information. And they'll say, we'll get back to you in a while. And you'll ultimately be told that send me your email performance, your performance to me via email every month. And I want to take a look at it. In about 2 to 3 years, it'll be your turn for them to look at you if you've impressed them with those emails. Okay? That's a long time to wait, man. That is not for the faint of heart. That is not for somebody who's trying to earn a living. This is not like, you know, it's not possible. Okay? So while I was speaking to these people, 1 or 2 of them had mentioned, so why do I need you if everything is automated? Look at that question. Why do I need you? I go, I don't know, because I wrote the automated software. I don't know. Maybe because he goes, okay, so why do I need you? Why do you want a 35% performance fee, which is my performance fee? And he goes, why should I give you that? Why don't I just buy your software? And I go, well, how much would you pay? But anyway, it's, you know, but it's, you know, it all, you know, I was like, okay, again, not something I started. So once I saw that, I go, so they're having a problem because I'm new, yet they want my software because that they can take advantage of. Is there something there? And that's when I switched in April of this year, actually, April 30th of this year, I switched my model from trying to actually manage funds to leasing my software to people. And about 40 clients, thank God, so far since April 30th have signed on. Wow. And so that little switch made a huge difference. Instead of me managing their funds, it's an automated software. I made it so that it's self-directed, meaning that they have to like put in their own stop price, their own price targets. There are some other things that they have to also do if they want to use like historical statistics in my logic, if they want to add that, enable that or disable that. Pretty cool stuff, okay, that they can direct themselves. And essentially, once they put those parameters in, the system will trade by itself. They have to enable it, disable it. They have the right to do that. So it's a yearly subscription now. And that works a lot better than me. I don't have to visit anybody. I don't have to fly to Luxembourg and any place to make a sale. You know, it's online. I'm very detailed in my responses and my emails. I'm accessible via GoToMeeting, Skype, etc. So, you know, it just works a lot better.
Yeah, I think it is. If you set up your business like that, you know, there's longevity, especially now with uncertainty that we're dealing with, like of not knowing if things are going to open up. I mean, that's
Sure.
certainly a good way. So like so those 40 clients you have, what's the profile? You don't have to tell us about who they are, obviously, but like,
Right.
are, are they individuals, institutional investors? Like who can get involved? Have you opened this up to the public yet?
It is. It's
Okay.
100% open to the public. Majority of those users, I would say, are individual traders. There are a few people in there that are firms, that are hedge funds, that probably have some sort of event-driven fund that they can allocate to something like this. But a majority are individual traders.
Hmm.
Individual traders vary from, people that are essentially, have a little bit of money to invest, like 50,000 or something, or 25,000. They have some money to invest. To you've got like career individual traders that do this for a living. Okay,
Hmm.
I know several people that had sold their businesses and cashed out with millions of dollars. That's all they do now. They essentially just trade. They've
Right.
allocated a certain. They put some money. Everybody puts money in real estate, which is the right thing to do. You gotta was, I don't know, in my view, it was, I don't know if it still is, but they have some money in real estate where they're generating monthly fees. And then they basically put the rest in like bonds and equities, and some to risky stuff like Bitcoin, your world, or in my world, futures. Both are very risky, but everything goes hand in hand, right? High risk, high reward.
Right. Yeah, so like, I wanted to piggyback off that. So we're in very unprecedented times right now, and there's a lot of uncertainty. You mentioned Bitcoin. The Fed is printing a lot of cash, so that's a bullish scenario for us Bitcoiners. But from your perspective, like, how do you deal with uncertainty and the market and not knowing what's going to happen? I'm sure this is probably why your platform's built to begin with, but how do you deal with uncertainty, or how have you built in mechanisms to deal with, tough times like this?
Very good question, Sean. So uncertainty is like in everything else, whether it's entrepreneurship or trading, everything is risk management. Okay. So you are definitely taking a risk. Now, the first thing you have to do is you have to step back and say, what can I take a risk with? Okay. You take a risk with risk capital, and only risk capital. You don't go wipe out your savings account, wipe out your credit cards, and say, this is the money I'm going to invest with. That is just not the right way to do it, in my opinion. In my view, you have to have risk capital. That means money. What does that mean? What is risk capital? That means it's funds that if you lose it, 100% of it, your lifestyle isn't going to change one bit.
Hmm.
You won't lose any sleep over that money that you lose. That's risk capital. Because you lost it, you're like, it was risk capital. I
Right.
still have my house, I have my cars, I have my apartment building, I have my bonds, I have my equities, I have my 401k. I'm cool. I don't worry about the risk capital. That's risk capital. That's the first thing. So let's step back. Now you have uncertainty, so you're managing that uncertainty with your risk capital only. Now, two, in my view, you need to have stops. Some traders disagree with me. I talked to a hedge fund, $7 billion hedge fund. One of their funds, 1.5 billion of it, had one directional trade, and they were short euros. I remember arguing with this guy for half an hour that he has no stop. I go, how long have you been in this position? He goes, a year and a half. I go, you've been in a short position on yours for a year and a half. You're down. And this was not a recent conversation, but I go, you're down and you have no stop. When do you know you're out?
Hmm.
I don't understand. He goes, we don't have to worry about that. We're going to be right. This is a smart money hedge fund. Okay. That I'm talking. I mean, I don't agree. Okay. Obviously there are people who disagree with what I'm saying. I do believe in stops. You have to have a stop price. That stop price is, again, a mathematical number. It is data driven. You have to look at it and say, at what point am I now not comfortable losing money? And that's my stop. Another way of looking at it is looking at the range. What's your range? Last week's range was from here to here. So I'm going to put my stop somewhere in the middle.
Hmm.
Okay. Different ways of thinking about it. All right. Everybody does it differently. I'm going to have a talk on this actually on the 20th.
Okay.
Anybody wants to follow me,
We'll post a link.
Yeah, we can do that. So I'm going to have a more detailed description of how to pick stops. And then you have to have, at what point do I stop trading completely? Money, okay?
Hmm.
So if I lose this much today or at this session of trading, I want my system to stop trading completely. And you have to make that decision based on your risk tolerance. So we talked about risk capital. We have to talk about risk tolerance. At what point do you start saying, I am not comfortable anymore? You shouldn't be, stressed out and hurting your health so that you can make a few dollars. That should not, there is no give and take there. Health comes first. Okay. So you need to say, once I hit that number, I'm comfortable losing X dollars. But if once I hit X dollars, I'm done. Okay. For today, I could be done for this week. I could be done for this month. But I'm definitely done when I hit that number for today. And I'll think about it if I'm going to continue tomorrow. But I'm done for today. Same with the stop. You have to have that in your head. If you don't, and actually explicitly noted in my software, you have to note it. You can't even trade unless you have a number in it. Okay, so you have to have a stop. There is no way, in my view, somebody should be trading without that. So that's how you manage uncertainty. My system likes uncertainty. It likes volatility, if that's what you mean by uncertainty. It's called the market volatility harvester. And it likes volatility. What every system, I don't care what the system is, doesn't like is sideways action where it's choppy. That's a system that, there isn't a year that goes by where we don't experience that, by the way. You're going to experience choppiness, which is why you're going to have losses. Every system will have losses. If they don't have losses over a long period of time, potentially technically possible to do it, but it's probable that what they've done is they're extremely conservative and they have very quick exits. By the way, I know that because I developed a system like that. It's very, very conservative, not the one I'm talking about now. My previous system did do that. Very, very conservative, very few trades, and it gets out as quickly as it sees a profit. Okay, a little bit of profit, tiny bit, out. Okay, that's how that system was built. So it's possible to keep that going, but even a system like that, I always say this, right? The double T threat, right? Trump tweet. If it comes out and you're in a position, you could take a loss, but your loss is going to be, you're the opposite position than the direction he decided to go with that tweet. You could take a loss, but if you take that loss, you know how much your stop was. You knew in advance you could lose that much, and you're okay with that, right? You have to be mentally prepared where you can lose money doing this, and that's a very possible thing, by the way. You could lose all your money, but so that's why you have to be very comfortable with risk capital that you're risking. And then you can manage it. You could sleep just fine. My automated system, when it was running, like I would just go outside, go for a swim, come back, look at it. Okay, go water the garden, come back. That's how it's got to be. You have to be at peace. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that word, risk capital. I've heard it before, but I haven't heard it in this context, and it actually makes a lot of sense. It's like, if you're allocating funds from after you've taken care of yourself, that's an upside. And if you lose it, you lose it, and you learned at least. I mean, I know when you even put a little bit of money into something, you start watching things, you're more careful with those things. And then, you can put it into these kind of investments and see it grow. And if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. You can always try again and try different investments. So Raffi, there's so much wisdom in here. I just wanted others to know, like, how do we follow you and the work that you're doing? And also, if there's anything you didn't cover that you wanted to cover, I want to make sure that you had a chance to do that as well.
Oh, thank you. So I think we covered a lot. But yeah, I mean, you can find me on Twitter, Raffi Sosikian, all one word is my handle. You can find me on LinkedIn, everywhere. I mean, pretty much Facebook. I mean, StockTwits. So I'm different places. You can, of course, go to my website, pinnaclequant.com, if you have any questions with that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Raffi. I hope to have you on again soon, man. This was really, really a great podcast. And I think from top to bottom, people are going to really enjoy the wisdom you shared with them. So thank you.
I hope so. And thank you. You're a very good interviewer, man. I'm expecting you in the next 24 months.
Okay.
In the next 24 months, I'm expecting huge things from you. Okay.
Thank you.
So it's gonna be huge. It's not because it's like gonna change the world, but it's going to show so much wisdom to people that they really want to say, I can't wait till the next podcast. I can't wait till the next one, because I learned so much from this one. You know what I mean? That's what I expect you to be.
Thank you so much. I needed that, and I really appreciate that. And I hope in 24 months, then, or in 12 months, we're gonna have to check back in, and
Yes, halfway
we're,
mark.
we're
The
gonna make
midpoint.
that happen. That dream
Yep.
is gonna be a reality. And the stuff you talked about, dreaming big, that's my whole philosophy. Just dreaming big, and then figuring out a plan and taking action to figure out how to make that dream possible. Because you can have that goal, and then there's a way to kind of bring it back. Okay, if that goal's in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, what are the things that I have to do now, the people I have to surround myself, the work that I have to do in order to get there. So I really resonate with what you said there, and thank you for the words of encouragement. I really needed that. Thank you, Rafi.
Thank you, buddy.
Awesome. See you,
Take
bro.
care.